When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means last among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word, that I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out. And behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them, until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
You know, there's so many meanings and events intertwined here. You know, the treachery that the three kings were trying to avoid when they didn't go back to Herod. All of the different meanings of the gifts that were given to the Christ child. The fact that these were foreigners who came to pay homage. And in the first reading, all of this wonderful feeling that the people of God had, almost glorious, that through them all nations would be blessed. I don't know that there are many parts of our lives where we appreciate glory, but I think one is sports. And I don't have the sports gene. Neither do you. I could see the minute I said glory. No. I've seen a couple of things, you know, Brian's song, all these little things that came on TV now and then, you know. But anyway, today I was on the way in, and I heard about a girls' basketball team. I don't know if any of you heard this. Of all places, Climax, Minnesota. They call themselves the Lady Knights of Climax Fisher High School, I suspect. And they are in the record books. They have been playing basketball, bobbing and weaving and all that sort of things that they do, and making free throw shots and everything for, ever since 2011, right? And they have a perfect record. At this point, they have never won a game. So they were in the record books and began to be so well known in Minnesota, and one or two of them were interviewed. It's really very embarrassing to lose all these games. You know, it's really very hard. And one time, this coach said that they lost 90-5. They were defeated. And he said, but you know what? They played like it was 5-5. And he went on to say how inspiring this team was, because no matter how miserable it was and how many games they lost, they kept playing and playing and playing, and they played with a kind of fervor that was inspiring, at least to the coach. But it was very embarrassing and really tough on them. But they kept going and kept going. Well, some time ago, I think a couple of months, they were playing a game. They were playing another high school. And they can't believe it, right? The first half, they're really, this is great. At the end of the first half, they were 1 point ahead. So anyway, expecting the unexpected, the unbelievable, the impossible, they went into the second half and it really went south. In fact, all their senior players on the senior class, one by one, were eliminated because of fouls. Right? Well, now all they had were juniors and maybe a couple of sophomores and a freshman left. And they continued to take foul after foul after foul until all the players were gone except for the 2 sophomores and the freshman, playing against 5 players on the other team. Now they all huddled around the coach, and the coach admitted he didn't say, well, we can win this. But he said, get out there and play. And all he really expected was what they intended to do is to go out and just give it their best. And actually, in the field, they didn't make 1 point. But they took foul after foul and went up to that free throw line, and through all of their free throws, they won the game. They were screaming and yelling, and the crowds were going crazy, and they were crying and falling into each other's arms. Because it was through sheer determination that they finally won that game. And, of course, they didn't win the championship, obviously. But that game, that one game, will go far beyond that one day and that one event in their own lives. And it was a lesson for their determination. Well, there's a little bit of an analogy here about the Old Testament people of God. They've been in Babylon. And as I may have mentioned before, one of the ways powerful nations would kind of take little nations and flatten them to nothing would be just take them right out of their homeland and put them off somewhere and make them stay away from all that they loved and cherished. And they did that with the Jewish people. And they were in Babylon until finally Cyrus decided he was going to let them go back for another political reason. But in any case, they were now being told, having been down on the bottom, just like the Lady Knights, that they were going to go back, they were going to reclaim their land, and all nations would be blessed through them. That's the kind of glory that they were feeling in that first reading. Now we've got the gospel. We have Jesus. And you know, in, let's say, Matthew's gospel is what we're reading here, but in Luke's gospel, it's more of an emphasis on the shepherds. And in Matthew's gospel, more of an emphasis on the 3 kings. Now, there's a lot of similarities. God has always, as in both cases, got control of what he's revealing to these 2 groups of people. They all come and they pay homage. However, the 2 messages are different. In Luke's gospel, the point made is that Christ came here and wanted to turn this social order upside down. He wanted to turn upside down this notion that the people who were wealthy and powerful were the ones who were favored by God, and the poor and the marginalized weren't. What he showed was, in those simple shepherds coming, was an invitation to them to come and be honored as well as they honored Christ by the fact that all people would be welcome, no matter what their social status, no matter what their circumstances were. The marginalized were now going to be brought into the center. And then Matthew, and it's interesting because Matthew is really writing for a Jewish audience. He wants to convince the Jews that this is the one that they've been waiting for. Luke was the one who was saying, oh, okay, too bad. You had your chance. This is something brand new. It wasn't so with Matthew. So anyway, Matthew, in writing this gospel, and in this particular account, brought people who were not Jewish, who were Gentiles, and they paid homage. The message to the Jews was to echo what we heard in the Old Testament. All nations were going to be included in this event. It wasn't just something that was solely ours to the exclusion of other people. He wanted to show that all nations would be blessed, not just the downtrodden of the Jewish people. All the downtrodden and all the nations would be blessed by this event of God becoming human. We, I think, have to realize that the symbolism of the gifts makes us really realistic about how it is to be so welcomed. So much hospitality shown not only to the downtrodden, also to other nations. The welcome is to come, but the gifts tell you a great story. We who are baptized into Christ Jesus, and we're anointed. And you know what you anoint? You anoint kings. And so we share in Christ's royalty because we are the anointed ones. So in come the gold shows royalty. It's a gift that would be given to people who were royal. And it shows that Christ, if anything in this universe would be looked upon as the king, it would be Christ. Then there was frankincense because of his divinity. We are not only welcomed into being royal, but we're also welcomed into being divine. We commune with the divine here, with one another and with the divine when we receive the Eucharist. That somehow that has to transform us and to connect us, not only with one another and everything in the universe, but also with God. And so when we walk out of here, I mean, like, we're charged. We should be charged. How is it we're going to be when we walk out of here now renewed in our divinity? And then the myrrh. The myrrh was a major, let's say, element in what they would use to anoint the dead. It was a kind of a foreshadowing in this symbolic story of Christ's death. And this myrrh kind of points out that some of what we have to experience, if we're going to accept the invitation, isn't all whoopee whoopee we're royal, you know, and whoopee whoopee we're divine. It's we're going to have to put up with those things that are difficult in this life. Somehow we're not exempt from what everybody else in creation experiences. So today I'd like to wrap it all together with that notion of hospitality. It's the one thing that no matter where I gather with people who are independent Catholics, say, we are here to welcome those who would be unwelcome. To remove that kind of exclusivity that can sometimes build up in any human institution. And be open and welcoming to all people. And so I'm telling you that you're welcome here, and you're royal, and you're divine, and it's not always going to be easy. We can all say that. And so in accepting that invitation, we should think about all three gifts when we put one foot in front of another, sort of like the Lady Knights, and put up with what is difficult in life. Because, as they found out, all the difficulty they put up with all of those years was no match for the great glory they felt on the day that they actually free-throwed their way into victory. So, what do? We got to go out there and we got to be hospitable. And I think there's something a little bit different between, hey, will you come to church? Will you come to church? Will you come to church? You know, you got to come to church. If you don't come to church, you're not going to be saved. Okay, you're coming, aren't you? Yeah. Are you afraid not to go? That's not the point. The point is that somehow a calm sort of hospitality should overcome us as we see little opportunities where people seem to be alienated, marginalized, low, looking for something, to simply say in a very calm kind of a way, maybe you'd like to come to church with us. You know, could be helpful. As opposed to sometimes, like one lady that's down in Laguna, a new person comes in, boy, she descends on them, and you'd say, they're not coming back. So, let's do that. We've accepted this invitation. We have been transformed. As we go out from this place, let's do our best to somehow influence others, not to have to come, but to feel welcome.